Do you ever struggle while playing disc golf in the woods? Maybe it's losing your disc, hitting that early tree, not making your putts. Playing disc golf in the woods can be really challenging. In today's episode, we bring on David Feltz, who is a very good woods player and has tons of experience playing in the Seattle woods, and he shows us how we can all collectively improve our woods disc golf games, giving us tips and tricks on what you need to do in order to score better in your woods tournaments, woods league nights, or just your casual woods rounds. Because let's face it, disc golf is a lot more fun when you're playing better. This episode is designed to help you play a little bit better in the woods while also learning a thing or two about your upshots. And if you're like Trenton and I and you're in that intermediate amateur level, then your upshots definitely need some work, and woods and all those trees might be a little bit scary. This is a great episode to learn from and hear some new and amazing stories. To get into today's episode, I wanted to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. In the Ace Club, we've got Daffy Duck WOT, Eagle Club, Brady Beaker, and Brian Pittman, as well as in our Birdie Club, we've got Frank Succi, Kevin Johnson, and Ben Wood. Thank you guys so much for your support over on Patreon. We've still got a couple spots that we're still giving away. If you join our Patreon, we will give you a disc from my collection and a disc from Trent's collection. So the first 10 people who join our Patreon, we're going to be doing that for. So get over there, get those awesome benefits, and get one of our discs. It's a pretty good deal. You can get two discs for very cheap over there. So go ahead, check it all out. Thank you guys so much for your support. Let's get into today's episode right now.
Hi, I'm David Feltz, and you're listening to the Chain Clankers podcast.
Alrighty, everyone, super excited to have David on the show with us today. He's already picked up a W this year on the local scene in tournaments. He's been playing on fire. David, how are we doing tonight, man?
Oh, I'm doing great, guys. How about yourselves?
I am doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day here in the good old town of Wichita, and we get to talk disc golf tonight, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, as I have renamed the season, it's no longer spring/summer, it's just rain season. We are in the monsoon season. I feel like every week lately it has been 4 days of rain followed by one really nice day, 3 days of 30-mile-per-hour winds, and then the rain is back.
And the nice day is always on a Friday while I'm at work.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, David, thanks for coming on. I know we've talked about it a little bit.
Definitely.
And really looking forward to getting this conversation rolling. So let's go ahead and get it started. So let's hear a little bit about your disc golf past and kind of how long you've been playing and what let's just hear about how long you've been playing.
Yeah, definitely. So I started playing right around 10 years ago. It was in 2012. I was literally like days away from moving up to Seattle, and a couple of my coworkers were like, "Hey, you want to play disc golf?" And I was like, "Well, I like golf and frisbees, so sure, let's do it." I went out Oak Park. I think it's the first course for a lot of people around this area. First hole, just threw it 40 feet straight into the ground, just so embarrassing, but it was awesome. So I asked for a second disc, and the next one drilled the backstop on hole one. So that was just like, all right, that was when the flip got switched, and I just loved disc golf from that minute on. Literally gave away my actual golf clubs that day because I was like, nope, disc golf, that's my golf now. And since then, like I said, that was day one. I've played quite a few different places across the country. Really got my start up in Seattle, that area, so I really enjoy woods golf more than anything. And so since then, have moved back to Wichita and have just really, really enjoyed the scene here. Play a little bit of leagues here and there. Ended up playing more with my buddies in the Ninja Branch more than anything. But at this point, disc golf is just a wonderful hobby that I am super, super passionate about. And I am more than anything grateful that I actually have it in my life.
So what was different between the first throw that went 40 feet and the second throw that hit the backstop? What was the difference there?
The fact that my friend said the target's up there and not the ground.
Oh
Basically,
my gosh.
I know, dude, like trash talking me right off the bat. Basically, he was like, dude, you rolled your wrist so bad. So that was kind of like, oh, okay, so I need to keep my wrist more flat. And for a little bit, I actually started using a bowling, wrist straightener kind of thing, and that would kind of help me, ooh, I might lose power here at some point. Uh, and that really helped me, keep my hand flat and made it for a better shot. Kept the disc more flat, and depending on stability, that's exactly what you want for a shot like that, especially throwing forehand. So
That is definitely a new one for me. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say they've used so the bowling like the wrist
it was, yeah,
that holds
it kept it,
locks your wrist
yeah,
from
it keeps
going
your
like
wrist from
that.
really flopping around a whole lot, and it really makes you cognizant of like what the location of your palm is. Because a lot of times you're throwing, like, oh shit, I thought that was flat, and then oh, it turns out no, you were at kind of a sharp angle there. So that it really, more than anything, it made me really aware of the position my hand was in when I was releasing the disc.
So, what made you be a predominant forehand player? Did you play baseball or anything like that?
Literally played one season of baseball in grade school. But the funny thing is, my dad, when we first started playing frisbee as a little kid, it was forehand. He was always throwing forehand, so I learned how to throw forehand before I ever learned how to throw backhand. And so, yeah, I'd say like at this point, still 90-95% of my shots are probably going to be forehand.
I can attest. I've played a few rounds with the man, and it's literally every shot you would never. I would probably never even consider throwing a forehand, and Felty's over there just chucking them. Doesn't matter which way the hole is supposed to go. He's turning it over or whatever it might be, throwing it. He's throwing amazing shots. So kind of what made you so comfortable with throwing the forehand on those lines that no one else throws forehand?
So a lot of them, and this has probably happened more in the last 2-3 years. I've learned to slow it down. I used to, just throw almost as hard as I can with almost every disc, which is stupid because you're going to hurt your shoulder, your elbow, your wrist. So I started throwing slower discs, and I started, like manipulating the angles more. I mean, it's basic stuff that everyone should be doing anyhow, and a lot of backhand people can do it better. But again, since I'm so much more comfortable throwing forehand, I have to learn how to do these forehand. So it's a matter of really slowing the torque down when you're throwing the disc, because I mean you'll get those understable discs to stand up just right, or if you throw them on the right angle, you get them to flip over just enough. But as they're slowing down, they always come back. Well, I wish they always came back. They usually come back.
Is it for people who don't know you, not from the Wichita area? How often would you say you go to the forehand? I know we've said you're kind of a forehand predominant player, but are you like Sarah Hokum level of forehand dominant, or is it just maybe more Eagle level pre-injury where it's really nice to have, throws it a lot, but that's not always the shot.
Oh, it is almost always the shot for me. A little bit more lately, I'm starting to get more comfortable throwing backhands, but still, it's kind of one of those. Do you work on something that you're okay at and make yourself really good at it, or do you work on something you're bad at and make yourself okay at it? So it's like I'll focus on my strengths. So I'm generally going to go with the forehand route.
That's interesting. I know you hear that a lot just in life in general to focus on your strengths. Well, I take that back. You hear that a lot to focus on things that maybe you aren't so good at, and that's kind of an interesting take. A lot of people, I know for sure for me, I was pretty good at forehand at first, and then who knows why I decided I wanted to work on backhand, and now that's like all I throw, and it's turned around, and my forehand is kind of the choice I don't trust. So it's an interesting take, but I think that can be useful for a lot of people, especially that listen to our podcast. A lot of people are trying to find things and get better at the game of disc golf, and that's a good tip. Focus if you're really good at forehand, grab the understable discs. You might, I mean, at least when I started, I threw a lot of overstable stuff. Grab the understable disc, go to the field, work on throwing any kind of disc on a forehand, and kind of see what happens. And who knows, you might love it.
So kind of what I want to get into next is when you were talking about in your journey how you played with a couple of your coworkers and then went up to Seattle. What was the disc golf scene like there? I know you said it was kind of wooded, but can you go into more detail about maybe just the differences and how the vibe was up there?
Well, I never got into the leagues. I was only up there for about a year or so, and there was probably a good 3 or 4 month break where I hardly touched the disc at all, just because at that time I didn't really have anyone to play with. And then one day I mentioned disc golf to one of my coworkers, just like, oh, it's such a nice day, I should go play disc golf. And he flipped out. He had no idea that I played disc golf. I had no idea he played disc golf. So found another friendship up there. But yeah, dude, I got to say, some of the courses up there, as far as the woods go, I mean, they are like our Colwich on steroids, just trees so thick you can't see through them during the really high growth season. Although I will say the nice thing about most of the courses up there was a lot of free blackberries that grew wild on the courses. Always good to have a snack.
Yeah, and a healthy snack at that sounds fantastic. My wife is on a huge blackberry kick, so I'm eating those way more than I probably ever have in my whole life. But that's amazing. I couldn't imagine. We talk about it a little bit traveling around to play, but I think that would be a beautiful. I mean, it would obviously be beautiful, but that would be a really fun place to go play. Is it heavily populated up there? Is there a lot of courses? Or
Dude, I gotta say, I've always told people we are really spoiled here in Wichita. We have so many courses at our fingertips. I mean, I could probably name at least 20, 25 that are within a 45-minute drive from here, depending on how fast you drive. But up there, they had a few really, really good courses. But I'd say, as far as the amount versus the people, yeah, they were going to be always way more crowded than our courses are going to be, just because of the sheer amount of courses we have compared to the population we have too. But just like anywhere, they've got their own special courses that are 100% unique to them. So some of those wooded courses, I mean, if you didn't have a couple extra sets of eyes, you were looking at losing plastic almost every single time you played it.
Jeez, that's crazy. That, like, when I first got into disc golf, and if you're kind of like how I was and you're listening to this right now, leave a like on YouTube, comment down below if this is you also. But I literally would not go play by myself because I was incapable of finding my disc. I don't know what it was, and I am blind. I am definitely legally blind, so that is part of it. But like, anytime I would throw it into the woods or just tree line, I could not find my disc for the life of me. And my buddy that I very first got into disc golf with, that I would go play with, I had to have him with me because he would find my disc in like 2 minutes, and I could look for 20 minutes, I would never find that disc. So I definitely understand that, and something I feel the more I've played, I've really stopped doing the bad shot, look away, because if I do that, I'm probably not finding that disc. I need to see where it lands, and I gotta just walk straight towards it, or even then I still might not be able to pick it up.
Yep.
So, interestingly enough, you are correct. Wichita does have a ton of courses in the area and surrounding area. What do you think is the reason for that? Maybe you know the Wichita disc golf history a little better than myself or Trenton. Like, what is it about this area that makes disc golf so popular? And like, what is the reason for the growth here? Wouldn't it be easier for these bigger cities to, have more courses, more people playing, more following behind it?
Well, part of it is you got to know the right people, and a lot of the guys that we've had on the AirCap board in the past, especially some of the older guys that have actually been around and kind of built the disc golf scene here, like Jeff Priest and Bill Paulson. It's look at them, look at what them and Buddy and so many of these other guys. I apologize for all the names I'm not mentioning, but these guys have really helped build this scene up. On top of the fact that they put in all the man hours to help us out, they know the right people that are like, on the city council or city managers, planning boards, committees, and stuff like that. So you kind of have to have people in those positions that are already a little interested. So, if your city manager likes to play disc golf, chances are you're going to be seeing more courses popping up. As is with Wichita, you guys see it as much as I do. It seems like we have another course put in about every year and a half, if not even quicker than that. And we're blessed for that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like courses are popping up all over the place, and we're definitely lucky to have that and have a city council and a city that is open and willing to allow these public areas to be used for our wonderful sport. And if your town is not, go get in front of those people. See what you can do to. That was a really loud thunder.
Was that you? Was that your
My son
mic?
might wake up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was me.
I don't know if I'm gonna leave that in, but that was crazy.
Dude, yeah, I'm watching the storm from out the window right now above the lake behind my house, and it is it's fun.
Trent, that thunder that you heard,
I hope my son doesn't wake
it
up.
just got to me
I
just
just
now.
heard that one now too.
Yeah. That was crazy. Yeah, Godspeed to your child, because that was loud.
No, but what I was saying, my dog's below my feet panicking. But what I was saying, go get in front of your city council members, or anyone that you know, and see what you can do to get some more courses in your area, because it is a great thing, and it's a great thing for the town. And I also want to talk about this, Feltz, because I know that you help with this. How is the I'm gonna butcher the name, but the league that you're assisting
the
with,
ICT mini bombers.
Yeah,
I
the
feel
mini
really
bombers.
bad.
There
I
we
haven't
go.
been around
How's
as much
that?
this season between going on vacation to Yellowstone for a couple weeks and having DDO and a couple other obligations going on. But it seems like every time I've gone, we have more and more kids show up to these things, barring any other activities keeping them from coming. So we've had a lot of interest. Kenny Underkoffler has just done a fantastic job keeping these kids interested. It helps that he works in the schools. So we've kind of finished up the school season, so to speak. But unfortunately, and you guys can attest to this, it seems like Thursdays are just notorious for cruddy weather this year. So and Thursday nights are the nights we take these kids out. And so we've had to cancel quite a few times this year. But the kids that do come, I mean, they'll still want to play even in crap like this. They'll learn one of these days, look it up, and have those old bones. But they're the future. And some of these kids, let's just say I'm glad I'm going to age out into the age restricted divisions in a few years before I have to play against them because there's enough kids in town that we could have just a team of little mini bombers that could take out, I'd say, almost any junior team I've seen.
Yeah, see, you're lucky because you're getting closer to that. Where I know I'm the youngest sitting here, and I know that I'm gonna have to spend the next 20 years going against all these kids, and they're gonna be more athletic than me. They're gonna throw further than me. They're gonna make more putts than me. So I really gotta be on my grind if I'm trying to keep up with it. But hey, that's what makes disc golf so exciting, and that's what we want to see. For us personally, that kind of sucks because we might not do as well or win as much. But for the sport and the growth of the sport, that is so critical. And that's, one of the core values I'd say of our brand and our show is that growing the sport is critical and doing it the right way is critical. And yeah, like Trenton was saying, what you're doing with those kids is just absolutely fantastic, man. Hats off to you for that.
Thank you. I really enjoy helping them out. It's a lot of fun when I can drag my own nieces and nephews out there too to kind of spur them on. But yeah, dude, I'm telling you, these kids, the ones that have just their interest it's amazing seeing how much they grow, how much they've developed. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh, I tripled my distance, but these kids are tripling, they're quadrupling their distance from the first time, just with a couple little tweaks here and there. Bill will tell them something, Kenny will give them a little tip here and there. And I mean, some of these kids, like one of them, I unfortunately have not seen him in a little bit, but there's a kid that he throws almost nothing but rollers, and the other kids tell him he's a cheater because you shouldn't be able to roll. You're supposed to throw a disc, and he can roll from pin to pin, no problem.
Hey, there are times where I wish I could throw a roller, and I have absolutely no confidence in that. So if he can master that at a young age, that might be tough to beat. Because you don't throw a roller very often, even at the Pro Tour level. But if someone gets really, really good at it, what kind of impact
and you see the rollers that go 100 feet plus out of bounds long, and it's like, what? I can't do that. Not on purpose, anyhow. Maybe accidentally.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think this has been a great discussion so far, a little bit about your story and your background into disc golf. And I know during our little pre-show discussion, we were talking about some of your strengths, and some of those are upshots and playing in the woods. And I want to explore that a little bit more selfishly because I've been sucking at my upshots lately. And it's not like it's the 200 foot and in range. I'm talking the almost 70-ish foot range where you can't really jump putt it. You kind of still have to, do an upshot, 75 to 125-ish range where it's not a putt. You're having an upshot. So what are 3 tips that you have or things that you were thinking about when you are doing an upshot?
For me, for the upshots, more often than not, it's getting out of trouble because I've put myself just in the sticks off my drive. So it's kind of like, all right, I know I got to get up there. I don't necessarily need this to go in the bucket off of this shot. That'd be nice, but it's just a matter of you know what angle am I going to try to hit? Is what obstacles do I have? The things that I should be thinking about on my drive are kind of hammered in when I go to throw that upshot. I'm actually a little bit more cognizant of what the wind's doing, what direction it's coming from, what kind of obstacles are in my way on the way up to the basket. Like what kind of route do I have available? Am I in the woods? In which case, I'm going to be throwing something a little bit softer, probably a little straighter, because more often than not, those kicks you get are terrible. But the lucky ones, those are the ones that people remember. So,
When you're thinking about everything, you said something about you're aiming for, if it goes in the basket, that's a bonus. But what exactly are you looking to do? Are you trying to just get within your
yeah,
comfort
exactly.
zone for putting?
You
Or are
want to
you
set
trying to?
yourself up for an easier shot than what you just had. So, if whatever the direction the wind is, I'm going to maybe try to set myself up for a tailwind putt versus a headwind putt. I'm going to try to set myself up for me personally, I prefer to putt uphill than downhill. I tend to do better putting uphill. So I'm going to try to set myself for an uphill putt instead of a downhill putt. Try to stay away from what's going to possibly be a death putt for me. If it's going to be some water, I might err on the side of caution and probably put the disc between me and the basket versus putting it to the side of the basket or even past the basket.
What is your go-to upshot disc and why?
More often than not, it's going to be my Justice, just because I know that the angles that I can throw it on pretty well. I know about what kind of direction it's going to skip, and about how much distance it's going to skip, if it's going to skip, depending on which plastic I choose to throw it in. And for me, it's just an incredibly reliable disc. It's gotten me out of more jails than it has gotten me into trouble. So I just lean really heavy. And as a forehand dominant player, it's fantastic being able to hold up that torque. So yeah, more often than not, it's going to be the Justice. Now, if it's going to be like a straighter kind of upshot, like say in the woods or something like that, if I'm feeling up to it, I can throw a Warship on kind of a gentle flick that'll stand up, and that thing will go pretty straight for a little while before it comes back out of it.
And for those of you who don't know, Warship is, I would probably call it a understable mid, maybe stable to understable mid, and then Justice is a very overstable. It's called a mid range. I don't know. What do you think, Phelps? Is it a
Oh,
mid range or
definitely.
is it a
No.
putter?
I don't putt with the Justice. Now the Slammer, that's a Justice putter right there.
Look pretty cool. I've never thrown a slammer or a pig before, but I definitely have thrown my Justice a fair share of times. And yeah, I really think it's a very reliable disc. All arm speeds can use it to some degree, even if you're brand new and you just know it's going to be a beefcake, and just maybe aim, if you're on a forehand, a little bit more left, or a backhand a little bit more right, and just understand and trust that the disc is going to work. I think a big mistake, and this has been a mistake that I make so often, I make it in the woods, I make it in the open, it doesn't matter, is I'll take my overstable disc, and instead of aiming my body right and just trusting and being okay with the disc coming up like 10, 15 feet to the right of the pin, I'll instead throw closer or right at the pin. And by the time my hyzer's out, now you're 15, 30, 45 feet to the left of the pin, and you're in a worse spot. So that's definitely something that, if you're newer or if you've never thrown a Justice before, I highly recommend just change your aiming point a little bit, because it's going to be stable. And at least my Lucid one has stayed pretty stable through the beatdown that I put it through. But talking about the woods, talking about accuracy, upshots, all those things, I think the woods disc golf is significantly more difficult than just wide open disc golf, because you're forced to almost work your disc more than in the woods. Like, if you come up 200 short in an open hole, well, whatever, you'll throw an upshot, you will probably get there. Maybe you don't. But in the woods, if let's say you're 200 short and you're pinched off, well, now it might take you 3 throws to get around the corner to get back to the pin. So I want to ask you, you had a fantastic performance at the Coleridge tournament this year. What are some things that you're doing when you're playing in the woods that maybe is different from when you're playing at a wide open
Well, one
course?
thing I find is I am taking shots from my knee way more frequently when I'm in the woods because you got to get down into those branches. You got a lot of low ceilings, and I think I have a slight advantage, and I think a lot of other guys can attest to this because I am so tall. So even though I'm dropped down on my knees, I still have enough space to where I can really get a full swing in with my arm. You kind of like you see Nico when he straddle putts. I can almost do that even from my knees. So I have a lot of experience doing that. And then as far as just actual woods golf, it's kind of, it helps to obviously play the course and know the lines. Know that even though there's a ton of trees here, there's actually a good sized gap here or a good sized gap there. And depending on the course you're at, you can even, maybe go over the top on some of this. This time of year, I'm probably not throwing anything over the top because it's going to get stuck up there and I might find it in the winter, maybe not. But yeah, it's just really a matter of, like you said, kind of looking for the places that I know what this disc can do, where it can go, and finding those pockets and hitting them.
Do you practice in field work like throwing from a knee, or like how often do you work on that, or is that just something that you pull out when you absolutely need
To be
to?
fair, I actually do throw from the knee a little bit more, just because a lot of the times, like if I'm throwing a putt into a headwind, for me, depending on where the basket is, it's better to throw it from straight at it than for me to throw necessarily down at it. And with the wind, a lot of the times here, it helps to get lower. Sometimes the wind's only coming up about chest high. So if you can get yourself out of the wind as much as you can, the better off you're going to be.
That's a fantastic tip. Never really thought about it, but especially, I mean, that would have been helpful when we tried to play on Sunday in that ridiculous wind, or
Yeah,
even
on
or
Memorial
even
Day.
Saturday.
Well, Memorial Day was
Oh
a really
yeah.
bad day when we tried to go play Herman in the wind. That was absolutely brutal. And something that I know I've done when playing in the woods or in the high wind or whatever is maybe I'll step up to my justice or a zone sometimes. Sometimes even a tilt if it's windy and I just feel like I am not going to trust my putter for
Yeah.
whatever reason, and I feel like the
Mm-hmm.
overstability will help me. Is that something where the overstability really doesn't matter? It's more about the wind is going to either knock it down or raise it up. More times than not, I've never even thought about going from a knee, but I wonder if going from a knee would be more helpful than changing your putter to a mid range that's more overstable or a
Yeah,
utility
yeah.
disc.
I got to say, as far as being in the wind and same, I played Oak yesterday with my buddies. I did not hit a single birdie. Thankfully, I didn't take last place. And then I went and got beat down by Ben Wiggins out at little Alley Park in Bel Air for our little Wample match. But yeah, disking up in the wind is definitely a good idea, more than it's not. So yeah, some of the times it's like, well, yeah, normally I would throw my justice here. I might disc up to my felon, depending on what the situation is and how much skip I can afford.
When you're playing in the woods, are you throwing kind of like we were just talking about justices felons, like are you throwing more overstable stuff, or do you find yourself throwing more neutral discs because you have to hit
Yeah, I
tighter
do tend
lines?
to go with my more beat in disc. So I got a felon that goes almost dead straight these days, and then yeah, I'll go with like a vandal or maybe back to the warship or an evidence or something like that. So I do tend to go with a lower stability when I'm in the woods for the most part. Yeah.
You might have said something earlier, but being more forehand dominant with those more understable discs, you just try to take it a lot easier. Or what exactly are you focusing on when you're throwing those?
Yeah, exactly. Like putting hardly any shoulder into it, going more like elbow and wrist kind of thing. Very touch, very finesse kind of shots. And the better you can get those, the better you're going to go.
How are you able to get finesse and touch on shots and not have them hyzer out too early?
It's just again being cognizant of like make sure you don't throw this too hard. Don't put too much speed on it. Don't give it a chance to really get out of the way. I mean, sometimes they do still get away. It's still kind of a really fine tuning that needle to where you need it to stop exactly where you need it to stop. And I still struggle with that a little bit, but the more you get out and practice, the more you'll learn your discs, the more you'll be able to do it, you know, on command, so to speak.
And talking about practice, then, if you have a tournament that's in the woods, is it better, or even league, it really doesn't matter. If you find yourself playing in the woods, or you're struggling in the woods and you want to get better, what do you think is better? Going to a wide open field and trying to imagine there are woods and trying to throw lower, hit tighter lines or whatever? Or is it better to just go to that course and just pretty much throw your entire bag on every hole?
I think you should go to the course, like actually get your feet wet, because you're not going to find those weird lines that you don't really realize are there out on the field, not as easily as you can while you're actually at the course. Because it's amazing sometimes, you see these local routes, and some of them are like perfect for a shot you might have in your bag, and you find you're just going to do that every single time, and all of a sudden you start racking up your birdies on that hole.
Makes sense. So when you go out to get ready for leagues or woods play or whatever, are you throwing? I guess you are. You said you are looking for these different lines, but are you doing anything different? I mean, I've heard a tip that you walk the course backwards. Or we've talked about that tip a few times. Or are you doing anything like out of the normal? Or are you literally just going out there and playing the course and just kind of soaking it all in as you're looking around?
Yeah, just kind of the experience getting out there, looking for, is there really a viable option for a forehand line here, or am I going to be forced to actually throw a backhand, or bar it? Maybe I'll even have to throw a little roller from here, which rollers are great in the woods when there's no trees in the way. So, but yeah, it's just, I think the experience itself is really the best thing to do.
And when you have to throw, sorry, Quentin, when you have to throw these shots you aren't as comfortable with, what are you really focusing on and trying to make sure you're doing to
Uh,
execute the shot?
I'll kind of like pick a point where they're like, okay, there's this clump of trees. If I can get past this clump of trees, then this is going to be, this is I'm a shot I'm fine with. This is a good shot. And so it's just kind of breaking it down into little micro goals and hitting those goals along the way. And, you're going to have bad holes. Everyone has bad days. And so even if you don't hit those goals, don't let that eat you up. Finish the hole out as best you can and forget about it. Just on to the next one. It's a completely new hole when you get to the next pad.
Yeah, I really like that. And something that I'm interested to learn more about is when you're having those bad holes in the woods, and let's say your drive is significantly off of the fairway, how can you scramble better to save par, save bogeys, not take big numbers? Like, what tips do you have for scrambling out of the woods?
This is one that gets me in trouble so many times. I'm glad you mentioned this. And it's a lesson I still have a hard time learning is look for the highest percentage shots. You're not necessarily going to get a huge distance, but as long as you make the next shot an easier shot, that is the biggest goal when you've already, gone off off course on one of the holes is just get out and stop the bleeding as quickly as you can, as safely as you can. Don't let that frustration get there because you're going to hit three more limbs and you've gone 12 feet in three drives. That's never a fun way to have a hole during your round go, especially during a tournament round. You just see your rating dropping with each of those strokes. You see your lead or your even worse dropping with each of those strokes. So it's just basically, yeah, look for the shot that's going to make your next shot easier.
So let's say you're in a situation where you think you have a line, you're pretending you can see something, and you throw it, you hit that branch, and you move up 8 feet. At that point, do you try to go for a hero shot again and still try to bite off as much as you can chew? Or is it at that point where you say, you know what, I'm going to accept I've lost 2 strokes here. I'm just going to pitch out and I'm moving on.
Yep, that's one of the hardest pills to swallow, and that's what you do. You pitch out and you move on. You take that 5, you take that 7, and you just get up and get to the next hole.
Yeah, we've talked about that quite a bit lately, but that is a very good advice and very hard to do. So
So hard to do.
anyone out there struggling with it, know everyone, even the best players in the world struggle with that kind of stuff, and actually not even, definitely us intermediate, rec, advanced level players all struggle with it too. So you're not the only one, and just keep chugging along and keep telling yourself you're gonna figure it out because eventually you will. But
And
I'm working on it as well.
it's true. I mean, how many times have you had the, like you said, the hero shot opportunity and you've taken it just to fail versus if you'd have just pitched out, you just saved yourself 2 strokes.
I would have won the Derby tournament if I would have done that.
Yep.
So,
I
pain.
had that happen at a Park City tournament where super windy, normal Park City tournament kind of
Yeah.
day. And it's like, all right, I have the opportunity for a 2, or I could guarantee to get a 3. So I took a 7. So
Oh
oh yeah, it was bad. It was really bad.
no! What
That
what
is awesome.
hole?
It was hole 5, the last one before the little short guy that's on the dike.
Oh, how? Did you just keep putting
Wow.
down the
Yep.
hills? Oh
Yeah. So it was
no!
set up on the hill, and I was at the base of the hill, and it's like seriously, just flip this disc upside down and slide it on up, and then tap in your 3. And it's like, no, I'm gonna take strokes on the card, man. I'm gonna take strokes on the field. And I went for the putt, and yeah, I just sailed it all the way over, and then it was a struggle. Then had a rough, hit the cage, roll back away, like for yeah. So 7, and that was finally my lesson for taking the big pill. Just take the pill.
Wow, that's see, I've not really had that too much, at least putting wise. I feel like this year, especially compared to the last 2 years, I've been a lot better about being like, maybe I should just kind of throw this at the pole and just be content with what I'm gonna get. But like I was
Yep.
kind of talking about with the at the Four Fathers Fling, that Derby tournament on 17, I was pinched on the left side. I was behind the tree line, and I shouldn't have thrown the Justice. I don't know. I should have thrown literally any other disc in my bag and I would have been fine. But I said, I'm going to stretch out and just barely have a gap out of here. And I'm going to try to throw a forehand Annie. And it got 0 Anheuser and instead rolled into the water. And I took a double bogey because I went out of bounds, which if I was going to go into the water out of bounds, I should have just done it off the drive and I could have got a bogey instead of a double bogey. So I think that was kind of my pill that I had to swallow for like upshots, to be like, okay, I need to chill out, just accept this is going to be a bogey and not make this any worse than it has to be. That was my moment. So I'm glad we could share that together. But
Oh, definitely.
talking about the bad, I want to talk a little bit about the good, right? We've said it a couple of times, but we haven't really gone into it. You won the Colwich tournament this year here in Wichita, and if you've been a long time listener to the show, this is our main wooded course in the area, and it had a couple extra holes from the new Colwich West course in there. And talk to me, what was it like? What was your mindset going into the second round, knowing you were winning this thing and you had 22 more holes of, hey, all it takes is 1-7 and this is over. Like, what was going through your mind?
Well, okay, so it's funny you mentioned that. So the second round starts with one of the little, I think he was a 12-year-old kid, and I was just like, oh no, the 12-year-old am kids, we're gonna get destroyed. And sure enough, we played through the first hole, and I think I took like a 4, maybe even a 5 on it. This kid threes it, and I'm like, well, I'm not even taking second place today, but that's okay. And then we come to realize that this kid's actually supposed to be playing rec, not MA2. So he's played the wrong hole. He's missed at least 1 or 2 holes, so he took some bonus strokes for that, unfortunately. But after he was gone, it was just like, okay, I can kind of be a little more crude again around the card now that the kid's not here. But then it was just like, also, oh, I don't have to worry about the 12-year-old spanking my butt in front of me. I don't have to see it happen. I can just hear about it happening later. And at that point, as much as I love playing competitive style golf, I really do try to not be super, you know, overzealous with my competition as far as just I want to have fun because at the end of the day, disc golf is something that I do to relax. And as soon as I start really getting upset while I'm playing, it's like, well, why am I actually doing this? So it was kind of like, let's just have fun. And with this tournament, it was one of these instances where I know I'm doing an okay job, but I wasn't actually checking the scores. In fact, I didn't check the scores until the very last hole of the second round, and that's when I was like, oh, I didn't realize we were so close. And so yeah, me and Jim, we were just going back and forth, and like, I'd hit just a killer long two, and then he'd follow it up, and then he'd hit a par save on a shot that he should not be hitting a par save on, and then I would also hit the same thing. And so it was just so much fun going back and forth. I had one win prior to this, but it was at a flex C tier thing, so I didn't even know I'd taken first place until the end of the day. And after I looked at the scores, like, oh, hey, I took first. So it was kind of really nice feeling that emotions of I actually did this. I got a win here. But just having that competition back and forth was just so much fun, and I would love to do it again. And of all the places, like you said, it's woods. I love Colwich. Both the courses are just fantastic. And so I think I had a little bit of an advantage as far as playing the woods golf there, but had a couple really lucky shots that probably shouldn't have gone in, and a couple really, really unlucky shots that should have gone in. But at the end of the day, just had a fantastic time playing, and just having that much fun being out at one of my absolute favorite courses to play. It was just a great time all over. And the best part, honestly, though, is how much money we were able to raise for the Scholarship Foundation. I think they said we raised, like, I don't remember if it was a 4 or a 5-digit number, but they raised quite a bit, and they have been doing just a phenomenal job with that.
It was definitely a 4-digit number. That was so much fun. And I know I can't remember if I was chase card or if I was third card, but I definitely had a couple of backups where I either was watching you in the first round and I was like, dude, this dude is absolutely cooking. Every time we come up to this dude, he does something awesome. And so that jersey that you had on was pretty sick also.
Ducks keeps us looking pretty fly.
Yeah, that was good. So something that I know I struggled with during that tournament was the constant backups. We had a backup on dang near every single hole, and it just took my mental game out of what was going on. How are you able to stay locked in during those backups?
For me, I normally feel like I get iced during the backups myself. So a part of it is just to, again, stay relaxed, just keep calm. Don't think about what's happening with the rest of the field. I know a lot of people during those backups, that's when they're checking the scores and they're like, oh, okay, I got to do this, do that. And so it's just like, stay calm, stay relaxed. Just if your card is cool with just talking and chatting, do that. Maybe kind of watch the other people who are playing. And it's a nice thing that you can be Bob for 5 cards ahead of you. You can watch those 20 shots. And so maybe you have an idea of what to do or maybe what not to do. Maybe they'll give you an idea of a line that you didn't think about taking, or maybe they'll show you the line that you were going to take was a bad idea. So sometimes, look at the good side of it. Look at the silver linings on these kind of things.
Yeah, I think something that I kind of want to do is I almost want to take these headphones that I'm wearing right now, these noise canceling ones. I know I can do it with AirPods also, but I know I'll be able to hear less if I have these on. And the next time I have a backup, I just want to turn my music up so loud that I can't hear anyone else while not damaging my ears, and just absolutely just zone the heck out. Because I know for me, especially like in the first round, for whatever reason, I really, really try my best to not let any nerves get to me and just be chill, good vibes, all those things. But for whatever reason, I can always feel that pressure in my chest, and I just can't quite play the way I want to. But then in the second round, I'm like, what am I doing? I've had my Wendy's 4 for 4. I'm just out here chilling. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I think that might be the next step for me personally, is just make sure I have some noise canceling headphones and just go into my own little world.
Dude, in the past, I've even brought books with me just because, like, I'm in a tournament. There's probably going to be a backup, so I'll just sit here and read a few pages of my book.
Yeah, I like that. That's also a good idea. Yeah, the one thing that I hate the most, and I've said this so often lately, is when we're all just sitting there and then somebody just starts reading the scores of everyone. I'm like, oh, no, stop.
That's my kryptonite. No.
Literally, and then I get like a bogey or a triple bogey, and I'm like, yep, well, this was fun. I'm glad I'm here right now. But yeah, all good things to work on.
That actually is perfect. I was going to ask you, so you said you didn't check the score to the last hole of the final round.
Yeah.
Is that something you normally do when you're in tournament play or any kind of play, or do you usually check the
I do
scores?
not. I personally, I don't care to know what the scores are unless I'm playing with a notorious cheater. In which case, I'll be like, all right, let's double check the scores after every hole. But for me, yeah, like I hate carrying the scorecard because I have to check the scores on every hole, and so it's just like letting that get in your head. So yeah, I generally don't check the scores, but at that point there was just a tiny backup on that hole. I'm like, well, we're here, and I know we're really close. So how close are we? Oh, we're really close. And then it was kind of one of those situations like, okay, I need to not screw this up, and I can actually get the win here. And yeah, it was one of those things where I didn't have the best drive, and he didn't have the best upshot, and so we basically pushed the hole. So I took it off of that. So that was different. But yeah, more often than not, this guy does not want to know what the scores are. It's like bad.
Yeah.
I know I'm doing bad. Thank you. We're good.
Yeah.
I think I need to try it because I think that's part of the reason I struggle sometimes. I don't know.
Could be.
Need to
Yeah.
give it a
Could
shot.
be. Yeah. I mean, you might as well give her a shot. Have you ever played with anyone cheating? Have you ever caught anyone cheating?
Me personally, I can't. I won't name names, but yeah, there was one event that happened within the last couple years where I was not paying 100% attention. I will say to this person's score, but at the end of the day, there was a few holes where it's like, really, because I'm positive you had at least three throws, and you're telling me that you got it in two, and I think this may have even been a four. So maybe a stroke here, a stroke there. So you got to watch out for them, and more often than not, they're known. And I was already warned in advance that this particular person might do something like that. So yeah, it was kind of not a shock when it happened, but it's frustrating. It's like there's no reason to do that at all. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a difference between getting mixed up and accidentally saying the wrong thing and then somebody correcting you and you being like, oh, yes, no, hey,
yeah,
I did forget about that. You are 100% correct. And then there's a big difference between being like, no, I got this, and like actively trying to cheat your
yeah,
way
yeah.
into doing better. Because with anything in life, what's the point? Like, are you going to go home being like, yeah, bro, I cheated them out of 10 strokes and I won the event? No, you
No.
didn't. Like, no, you didn't. So, yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I think this has been so much fun so far. But David, let's get into your hot take. What do you got for us tonight?
Oh man, as far as disc golf goes, growth. It's insane. We've talked about it before. We're seeing so much growth. I mean, I believe they said that the PDJ number 222,222 just got shut. Yeah. Can you believe we have that many PDGA numbers? Now, granted, not all of them are active, uh, but with growth comes tons of people. Case in point, I went to a league last year, just a regular weeknight league, and there was over 70 people there, and I only recognized three of them. Three. So I gotta say
Wow.
growth. So just be cognizant of your fellow golfers. Teach etiquette where you need to, and abide by etiquette when you should, and just help us keep an eye out on those vandals, because that's one thing. With growth comes bad with the good. So I mean, you guys have seen it posted on Facebook just as much as I have. I think we've probably had at least half a dozen baskets stolen or vandalized within the last like 2 years or so, and that's just ridiculous. So also keep an eye out on your buddy's backyard. If he's got a basket that looks like it used to belong somewhere else, maybe call him out on it.
I was just gonna say that's a great point. I was also gonna add to it. I need to do better at this myself. When you see, beer cans, soda pop cans, just trash in general out at the course, make sure you are picking it up. Quinn and I talk about it. We both need to do better about it, but just make a point to try to keep the courses clean, especially in the areas where maybe you don't have many courses and you want your city to bring more courses on board. Like, keep the park that the course is at nice and clean, and who knows, maybe they'll notice that and they'll be more willing to open up another course
Oh
or
yeah,
two.
yeah.
So
You got to go on those
just
garbage rounds. I mean, I've seen guys go through and probably fill up 3 to 5 pretty good sized bags just in one round. So
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't know how feasible this is because I've never designed a course before, but just a trash can, like every 4 to 5 holes would be
it would go a
great and would
long way.
hopefully alleviate a lot of those issues. And, maybe it's whoever's the key master to the baskets, when you change the baskets or once a month or whatever it is, just go pick up the trash real quick. Or, when there's a league night or change it. I don't know, something. But that would definitely, in my opinion, go a long, long, long way to kind of helping that problem.
Yeah, I mean, pack it in, pack it out. You got to come prepared to haul your own trash off. So, I mean, like, I know if I'm going to be coming out to the course with any sort of snacks and stuff, I've got a little bag that I could throw all my trash into. So, yeah, then,
Yep.
and of course, even better is taking more crap off the course than what you came with. If you can do any sort of cleaning, fantastic. Right. I can't help but remember that one of the times we played with the little kids, we kind of used them as our slave labor and had them help us clean up the course. We're like, all right, anyone who collects 20 pieces of trash, blah, blah, blah. And they did a good job. So we got to get the kids doing that a little more frequently.
Yeah, the next time we go play, Trenton, you can bring a trash bag and I'll just get in it, and then you can take the trash off of the course, and the course will be a better place.
There we go.
Oh,
that works.
Goodness.
I don't know. You'll have to bring a wheelbarrow too.
So, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, hey, everyone adopt a hole. Like, hey, this is my hole 5. I'm going to keep hole 5 clean.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Not a bad. Right.
Well, I think that was great. I think there's not a whole lot of debate there. I think we all agree. Stop vandalizing. This is why we can't have nice things. Pick up your trash. Just be respectful of other people also. You're going to come to a point where in, let's say, 2 years, and, you've been listening to this podcast and you've continued to grow your game, and now you're like the good one, and the new person who just started listening to this podcast is trying to catch up and learn, and they're taking a little bit longer. Just be respectful when you try to play through them and stuff like that. It's so annoying when No more words said there. But let's get into the ace round. These are the same 5 questions that we ask all of our guests to see how their answers differ. Maybe hear some awesome stories and some great tips. Trenton, why don't you start us off with the first question?
You got it. All right, David. So you are taking a beginner to get their first discs. What putter, mid-range, and driver are you recommending?
All right, I'm going to pretend that the first person is going to be me when I first started, and I wish somebody would have given me a Warden, a Warship, and a musket, because the Warden is a fantastic disc. It's a pretty straight shooter. I've, again, been practicing lately with getting a flick shot with the Warden. It really helps to go out to those junior courses, to work on stuff like that. And then kind of same thing with the Warship, kind of a more neutral kind of flying disc, maybe a little on the understable side, depending on the plastic you have. And then the musket, I find, is a disc that I can actually throw both backhand and forehand fairly reliably too. It's not too fast. It's a 10-speed fairway driver. It's not too slow. So I think that would be a nice little trio of discs to get started with in order to really enjoy yourself pretty quickly.
Nice. Yeah, those are definitely some good suggestions. Second question we have for you. What is the favorite course you have played and one course you have yet to play that you want to cross off your bucket list?
All right, well, that's an easy question for the first half. Eagles Crossing out in Hawk Point, Missouri. Oh, my gosh. I mean, it's got to be on tons of people's bucket lists. I mentioned the Ninja Branch earlier, a group of guys I play with. We actually went out there in October for the birthday for one of them, Mr. Jose Rodriguez. And we first played Harmony Bends, which when I played Harmony Bends, that was the best course I'd ever played. And then the next day we went and played Eagles Crossing. And it was in weather similar to what we're having right now. It was just raining cats and dogs. I mean, seriously, the first 12 or 13 holes, we were drenched. I mean, just completely poured on us the whole time. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would pay the fee. At the time, we paid $25 per person per round. It was like a Saturday, I think, was when we had our tee time. And then they've increased their prices, but even then, it's still totally worth it. That is definitely a course that you should get out there. I mean, it's just the next state over. Granted, it's a little bit of a trek to get out there, but it had so much to offer between the shots, the views, the amenities there on the course. Just definitely get that one out of the way if you can.
Yeah, I think we're gonna need to make that trip sometime, Quentin. Make a little trip out of it. I don't know. You playing in the rain, I would have rethought, but maybe I'm just a wimp. I don't know.
Well, that was a benefit of playing up in Seattle too. Was I learned how to play in the rain
That's a good point.
pretty early on as well. So I think I had just a slight advantage to that too. But as far as the second part of your question, a course on my bucket list, I would say at this point probably any course in Europe. I would love to go play. Maybe that'll happen someday, but for right now, a bucket list I'd say in the U.S. I would love to get out and play Blue Ribbon Pines.
All right. So
Sounds
the
like another
third
road
question
trip.
for you. Right. The third question for you is, what is one tip you would tell your beginner self knowing what you know now?
Stay away from those high speed drivers. Just because the speed's higher doesn't mean that your distance is going to be further. So yeah, more even after having played for many years, I found myself still getting in trouble with them. So at one point, I took every high speed driver out of my bag for almost a solid year. The fastest disc that was in my bag was an 11 speed, and that wasn't even getting hit too frequently. I was really leaning heavy on the nines and tens. So yeah, just work your way up. Literally, work your way up to those.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good tip right there. Fourth question we got for you: what is your favorite memory playing disc golf?
I gotta say, probably back. I think it was in 2015 over at Eastminster Church. I was playing with my brother and his friend, and I was telling them how just the week prior I'd had a metal cage hit on this particular hole, and I was like, "Oh, you're pretty excited about it." And so his friend's like, "Well, I want to see you hit a hole in one right now." I'm like, "Well, I'm not necessarily gonna be able to do that." He's like, "Well, you said you can, so I want to see you do it." So of course I'm like, "All right, dude, just for you, I'm gonna throw this disc into that hole on one throw." And then I did, and it was such a struggle to keep myself from freaking out. So when I turned around and looked at them, I mean, both of them just jaw on the floor. I was like, "All right, now what do you want me to do?" And I mean, that's never going to happen again. I can tell you that. But it was just so phenomenal for that to happen.
That would be so cool. I'm gonna start doing it on every video. Now I'm like,
You
all right,
should.
Quentin,
It's a
this
numbers
is
game,
for
man.
you. Wow, just send it. That is great. I hope to have something like that. That'd be amazing.
Oh, it was so
That's
fantastic.
a great memory. All right, here's the last question for you. What is the biggest mistake you see newer players make?
And that has to go back to the advice I would have given myself as a younger player. Those high speed discs, they're more often than not, they're going to get you in trouble more than they're going to help you early on. I mean, yeah, there's some diamonds in the rough out there that could probably throw them pretty easily right off the bat, but most of us are not like that. So you know, baby steps. Take it slow. Learn your putters, learn your mids, and then move on to your drivers.
Love that advice. Love this episode. David, this was so much fun getting to know you, getting to know more about your story as well, learning a thing or two from you. Where can people continue to follow your journey and connect with you?
I am kind of an old school guy. I do have a Facebook, and I believe I have a Twitter that I probably used to enter some contest ages ago. But it's just going to be finding me out on the course. I play Oak more often than not. And then any of the area courses, you'll probably find me there. Some nice, bright, sunshiny day this summer.
Heck yeah, man. Well, hey, David, so much fun
yeah.
having you on the podcast. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, make sure you leave a like rating if you're watching on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so we would definitely appreciate your help over there. Those 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify are also highly appreciated. If you haven't already, we've talked about it at the beginning of the episode, but check us out on Patreon. We have some awesome stuff going up on there, and you can be like David, and you can also get on a podcast episode with us, so check that out. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode, and we will see you guys next week.